Welcome to Martin Monday's Intentional Intimacy, where love, life, and legacy meet in the moments that matter most. Every week, I will share sacred reflections of my 30-year marriage before Martin's passing, as well as our life now without him. May these reflections help us live with more weight, warmth, and wisdom. Martin was a letter carrier by profession, but a life carrier by purpose. So let's take a moment and let intentional intimacy speak. Welcome to Martin Mondays, episode 45. Time will tell. That's an expression that Martin used to say all the time. It started when, he wouldn't say yes or no to the kids per se because he was a man of his word and great integrity. And so he would say, oh, time will tell. And so that kind of started as an expression. And I was something I realized today as I thought about him saying time will tell. And what I thought about today, I can't say it was a revelation because it didn't change what I knew per se. But what I thought about today, it reminded me how clarity often arrives in life and how things sort of play out. I was working on some things for my business, and I wasn't trying to do a whole business rebrand and I wasn't trying to find my whole purpose in life. I was simply working on a grief offering for a client. And as I was building it, this wonderful thing happened. Now, I'll be honest and say grief work was not and is not something I would have ever chosen for myself. It's not the work that I generally would naturally gravitate to or even, describe what it is that I want to do in life. It's just kind of me doing what I believe I was called to do and, how God directed me. And so, I was just simply being obedient to the assignment at hand. And even when it wasn't the thing that I would have selected for myself, right? And so as I was working through this grief offering and I was kind of putting together what I would provide and how I would offer it for the client, I really kind of found myself wrestling with the right language and the right words. I believe words are so important in how you describe things and how you do things. And so I was really trying to describe this body of work, and I was kind of struggling with it because trying to explain it really, really mattered, and it was very important. And so somewhere in that process, somewhere as I was thinking through it and I was thinking about it, it was like, oh, something became very more clear. And it wasn't because I was working. It wasn't because I was trying to look for it, it wasn't I need this clarity. I need, this resolution. No, I was just simply working. I was simply showing up. I was simply doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I was tending ultimately to the assignment in front of me, grief, out of obedience. And what emerged to me was language that felt more accurate. It felt very complete. It felt more Paula, and it felt very aligned with my heart and what honestly I've been doing for years. And so at that moment, I realized that sometimes the clearest understanding in our lives, it doesn't arrive when we're actually looking for it. Go figure. That it actually arrives when we are being faithful. Sometimes we can be so focused on figuring out where we're going that we actually miss what's being revealed in the journey. And so I was reminded today that understanding doesn't always come first. Sometimes obedience is what comes first, and then clarity and understanding follow. So as I've been reflecting on that, you know, I've just been reflecting on clarity. I've been reflecting on understanding, not as the destination, but as the path, right? Because the thing that I was faithfully doing, the whole grief work, the thing that I knew I was supposed to do, even though I can't say it was, what I wanted to do, it became the very, very thing that helped me to better understand what I really love to do. And there's something I have to say that's very beautiful about that. Not because I have all the answers now, because I don't, but because it reminded me that, Paula, you don't need all of the answers to keep moving. That's what made me think about you guys and Martin Mondays. And so I want to reflect on Time Will Tell in just a moment. See you on the other side. Okay, as I reflect, guys, time will tell. One of the challenges in our life is that we often want certainty before action. And we want the blueprint before the first step. We want clarity before we commit. And we want understanding before we are obedient. But let's be honest, guys, life doesn't always work that way. Faith, it rarely works that way. Because some things, quite honestly, can only be learned in the journey and while we're moving. And so some things can only be understood while carrying the assignment that's already in our hands. And so looking back, I can truly, truly see moments in my own life where I wanted more information than what I had. I wanted a clearer picture. I wanted to know where this road was going to lead. But oftentimes the next step, the single next step, was all that I was given. Yet, somehow, that was more than enough. Not because I understood everything, because I didn't, but I understood enough to move, because that instruction was enough to move. And so maybe that's where you find yourself today. Maybe there's something in your life that you already know that you're supposed to do. Not because it's easy, because it's probably not. Not because it's exciting, because it may not be the thing that stokes you. Not even because you fully understand it, but deep down inside, you know that it is yours to carry. And so if that's you, lean in, friend. And let me encourage you. I simply want to say, keep walking. Stay in the journey. Because the clarity that you're looking for, it may actually not be waiting before the journey. It actually may be on the journey itself. And so my encouragement to you today, and my challenge to you today, is to take a few quiet moments this week, today, and ask yourself, what is the one thing I already know that I'm supposed to do, even if I don't fully understand where it is leading me? Now, when you ask yourself that question, don't rush to try to solve it. Just sit with the question and ponder and think through it, and then ultimately see what comes out of it. Because if you're like me, the clarity that I was seeking It wasn't waiting before I started the journey. It was waiting along the path of my obedience. Because time will tell. Have a great day, friend. I'll catch you next week on Martin Mondays. Martin Mondays continues on Tuesday with the Tuesday Tea. Check it out and join me and take a sip. You know, Martin used to say a lot of things. Some were funny, some were wise, but one thing he often said was, wow. Wow. Just those 3 letters. It spoke volumes. It meant a lot. When he didn't know what to say, wow. When he was excited about something, wow. When he was confused, perhaps, or even frustrated, he said, wow. And you know, he's still saying wow. Through this bracelet, he's still saying wow, because he's still saying, may your whole life prove that God is good. And so in closing, that's my hope for you this week. May you have wow moments as you too are living out legacy. Live in the wow. Live in the reality of knowing that your whole life is good. Live in the heartbeat of Martin Mondays and intentional intimacy. May that anchor you in this week as you build legacy, one wow, one moment at a time. See you next week.